welcome back to On the Workbench. Today I wanted to do a quick toolbox tour to show you what I keep in my toolbox. So let's start at the top. At the very top of my toolbox up here, I keep a 24-inch level, and that can fit right inside the lid with no problem. I also use my top space in my toolbox to keep my hearing protection in here. I also have some dust masks. I got some vinyl letters, not really sure why I even have those. I got a caulking gun, a strap wrench, an axe. I've got some carpenter pencils. I also keep a mirror. That's handy for getting into spaces here. I also keep my safety glasses. And I also have an extra pair of polarized sunglass safety glasses that I can use if I'm using yard work, and an extra pair of safety glasses. I think it's always nice to have extra pairs of safety glasses around in case I get a visitor or a family member that wants to come by and take a look, or a friend stops by. And when not in use, I also keep my remote from my Fast Cap remote control vacuum control that I wear as a bracelet when I'm working around the shop. And so now if we work our way down, on the top left drawer up here, I keep all my cutting tools. So I've got my folding Milwaukee jab saw, a couple pairs of cutters, scissors, knife, and then I also got a scraper. I wish somebody would come out with a better quality scraping tool than what that is. Also got a tile saw, a pencil sharpener, some extra razor blades, a small stapler, a red crayon for marking. On the next drawer over is where I keep my pliers. So I've got things like just my regular slip joint pliers. For some reason these seem to be, it's hard to find a really good pair of slip joint pliers. I got this pair of Craftsman Professional ones that have a nice flush connection. I really like these just regular slip joint pliers. My adjustable pliers, locking pliers, end nibblers. I've also got a pair of diagonal cutting pliers, linesman pliers, needle nose pliers, and then the back here, maybe you can't really see it, I also have a pair of folding Allen keys that are useful from time to time. They're really there because I don't know, I just have always kept them there. On my right side over here, I've got all my screwdrivers. So I've got Phillips head screwdrivers, flathead screwdrivers, but then I also have these square Robertson screwdrivers. I've got that in a 1 and a 2. I'd love to get that. I'd love to also get a Robertson number 3. And then I also have the not so common Reed Prince screwdriver, and that gets me out of some other random tough situations when I just can't get a screwdriver to grip onto a screw just right. And then I also have a couple of these bit drivers that I can drop a little bit in if I need to be able to work on something else. So I'm going to put a little Torx in there. I've also got some Torx screwdrivers in here too. Things that are small, that are large. I've got a couple small fine screwdrivers like that. So I keep all those up there in that corner. And then we pull out our full drawer up here. Then in the back here, this is another one of my favorites. I've got a set of ball drive Allen keys. These were only available in US sizes. I wish I could find a metric set. I love these. These are just wonderful for being able to just carry around. They're durable. When they've gotten me out of a lot of tough situations just based on how long they are. And then other tools up here, I've got what I probably should get rid of and throw away of my Max Access locking wrench. I've got the small lighted Craftsman adjustable wrench. I've got a tape measure, a small torpedo level, feeler gauges, a 100-foot tape measure, a couple nail sets, cold chisels, a set of dial calipers. Also got some other just hooks and picks. These are also wonderful if I'm having troubles with getting glue out of someplace or opening up a glue bottle, or even sometimes if I have trouble just getting a trash can or a trash can liner opened up, I can grab a pick here to be able to separate the pieces of a trash can. That gets really annoying sometimes because of the static cling. I also have my convenient extendable magnet. That's very handy. I've also got a chisel holder here. Looks sort of like a screwdriver, but you can put a cold chisel in there, and I can hold it so your hand's nowhere near where it's striking. I've also got an old screw starter here. It looks like it's got a thread at the bottom here. It's just kind of a really quick and dirty tap and die for getting a hole started. A coddle pin puller. I don't use it that often. I've also got a scratching owl. I usually keep the little protector piece on there to protect it. And then I also have a little small pocket size pry bar. This is very handy if I'm worried about pulling nails or staples. I don't want to get my hammer out. This is just like the size of a screwdriver, and it works wonderful. They're kind of hard to find these days, but they're absolutely wonderful to have when you need them. Then you also have a stud finder. So let's put that back, and let's go to the next drawer here. Now this is just a bunch of junk and hardware, where I've got things from like plumber's tape, straps for electrical cords, we'll tie them up, some other old drawer pulls, magnets, miscellaneous hardware, nuts, bolts, hooks, small nails, extra pins for my snow thrower in case I were to break one of those pins in the winter, picture frame wire, replaceable ends for a rubber hammer, metal strapping, all sorts of odds and ends. And the big thing here is I've probably saved way too many of them. These are all of the drywall inserts that come with just various odds and ends of things that you buy, that they send the inserts with it, with a pair of screws. I've just got a whole collection of those. I'm to the point that I've stopped actually saving them. I just throw them away when I get new ones when I buy something I don't need anymore. I've also got a small collection of extra T-nuts back here for random hardware. So it's just kind of a random drawer. If we go down to my next drawer, now these are a lot of striking, hammering, chisel, demolition type tools. So I've got a hammer, a crowbar, I've got a hacksaw. I also have my rolling pry bar. I've got a rubber mallet. There's two different densities of rubber here on either end, the brown versus the red. I've got a set of scraping tools. There's this one here that's you can actually resharpen on a grinder. And then just some extra pry tools. These are useful if you're working on car interiors and you got to pop out a panel and you need to just pry it out. Those are useful. I have a whole different set I use for drywalling that I keep with my drywall supplies inside, but I keep these out in my toolbox in case I need to scrape something down. Or I've also got a much more rigid one here if I need to scrape something else and I don't want to, and I keep that a little bit duller than my actually sharpened pry bar here, or not pry bar, scraping tool. For something a little more low profile scraping, I also have the small narrow scraper. I also have a hand chisel. I also have another odd tool here. This is just a knife sharpening, where it's diamond impregnated on the shaft. I also have this itty bitty small crowbar. This has got me out of a handful of jams too. Also useful in trying to remove interior car trim. If you need to tinker with some wiring or change a car stereo, that works great. Then I've got a whole set of these files here where I've got mill files, bastard files, round files. I've got my so-called engineer's correction hammer, which is kind of more just obviously a large hammer. And then I've got my collection of chisels all the way from, I believe the smallest is a 1/4 inch up to 1.5 inches. And then in the back here I also have another little oddity here. This is a corner chisel for squaring out a corner. So if you're running a router and you route out something that only has a rounded corner, you can square it off with this chisel. Works best if you've got a 1/4 inch radius to start with and you need to square off from a 1/4 inch back to full square. So that's my top unit. Now let's go down to my middle section here. Then here, this is where I keep some of my electronics here, where I've got a multimeter, I've got a light meter, a sound meter, I've got all sorts of other attachments for my multimeters from the leads, an AC clamp-on amperage hook, a clamp-on temperature sensor, a soldering iron, a touch temperature probe, another temperature probe, soldering tools, and I normally keep over here, what's missing right now is my car computer reader, how that plugs into my OBD2 port. That's normally kept in here too. And I also keep, one of the only guides I keep out here is my digital multimeter guide. I don't use all the settings of my multimeter all the time, so that is the one manual I actually do keep in my shop. I should probably spend more time with my multimeter and learn it so I don't have to keep the manual around. But whatever, it just is what it is. And then I get down to my next drawer and I've got all my sockets and wrenches. And so the first thing here in the front is I've got small 1/4 inch drive sockets here. I got my shallow sockets here in the middle, and I got some deep drive ones here. And then I've got 3/8 inch drive universal fit sockets all the way across. So I've got standard on the, let's see, which way do I have it here? This side here is my standard. And then my other side over here is going to be my metric, so it's a 13mm over here. And so these are all 3" drive. Ones in the middle here are spark plug sockets. So that's an 18mm spark plug. And here is a 3/4" spark plug socket. And so then I've got a full set of 3/8" drive sockets, my 1/4" drive sockets, and then I've got my shallow 3/8" drive sockets. I've also got a set of adapters here to go from 1/2 to 3/8, and from 3/8 to 1/4. Then in the back are my 1/2" sockets that go all the way from 1 1/4" all the way down to 3/8 of an inch. So I got a whole set of those. In the back here I've got my impact sockets for English and standard. And then I've got a set of wrenches. So these are ratcheting wrenches. I've got standard and metric sizes of those. And then I've got my actual ratchets here in 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2. I've also got extension bars and a couple other random wrenches here where I've got just a 1/4" drive. I can put a hex screwdriver bit in here. And so I've got a little small ratcheting wrench for that. An adjustable or a flexible extension. I thought it'd be neat. I haven't actually had a use for it, but that might be useful someday. I've also got just one set of these of a universal joint. This is a 1/2" drive. I don't have the 1/4 or 3/8" drive because with my adapters plugged into either end, I can make this work with a 1/4, 3/8, or 1/2". And just with the way these universal joints are, having the maximum size on these pins, which is where all the stress is going to be, will extend the life of it. And then I also have my other secret wrench that my neighbor loves, and this is my bottle opener. That looks like a wrench, but it's actually a bottle opener. It actually works quite well as a bottle opener, and my neighbor knows exactly where to find that whenever he comes over for a visit. And then if we go down to my next drawer here, I've got a tap and die set, and then I've also just keep my Allen wrenches over here. It's probably not the best place to keep them, other than it's just a spot that I've got space in my toolbox. So now working my way down, I've got the small surface here that's useful for just setting some small parts down. So when I was trying to figure out exactly what would go where, I try to put what I'd pull out the least, which is my tap and die set. Still good to have right here in front of this shelf here so I can set something down if I need it. And then on the side of my toolbox, I've got the flip up shelf. This currently has my pencil sharpener on it. And then I also have either a soda can holder here. So there's my soda right there that fits in there. This is a little Harbor Freight magnetic accessory. And then I got a pencil here, and I've put duct tape on the end like a flag to keep that from falling through. Otherwise, I think these are meant to put screwdrivers through, but I usually just hold a pencil there. And then, so right now I've got a set of light bulbs here that I removed from some outside light fixtures when I replaced those with LEDs that I wanted to save that are still sitting there. And then on the other side of my toolbox over here, I've got another magnetic accessory from Harbor Freight. This holds my latex and rubber gloves when I need them for finishing. And so now if we work our way down to the bottom set of drawers, the next set here holds a lot of my power tool accessories. So the back here is a set of accessories for my oscillating multi-tool. It includes sandpaper and different blades. I've got batteries for my Porter Cable 18-volt tools. I've got a set of drill bits. I've also got a bunch of other accessories for my drill. I've got a fast start adapter, a jump start. I think that's the word that Troy Built uses. So I can plug this into the back of my weed eater to get this started with my drill. I've got my improvised reciprocating saw blade holder, flexible screw bit drive adapter, long drive adapter here for a screwdriver or drill bit that's rigid. I've got my hole saws, my hole saw kit, jigsaw blades, spanner wrenches. I've got a couple other accessories here with some sandpaper and grinding wheels and more multi-tool accessories. And then this is actually for my rotary tool, which I'll get to in just a moment. And then my next drawer down is my other set of hardware. So I feel like I'm kind of spastic. I got some hardware up top, some hardware down here. I probably need to reorganize this to some extent, but then down here I've got different sizes of my pocket hole screws. I got some of these extra adapters here. This is originally a Husky piece here that I can use it to mount something else, to the Craftsman VersaTrack or the Husky, whatever their name was. Some other sets of T-nuts and bolts that are matched pairs, electrical tape, and some wire nuts. Some other just bolts, and screws of different sizes. You'll notice a lot of these are these green containers that would have came from SPAX screws. I think those are actually really nice for subdividing this down. And I got screws of other sizes here. I got some small drywall screws. And then one of the other odd things here is I've got a set of tile spacers. So these are actually really nice and useful if you're trying to make some pattern where your boards are decoratively spaced. I forget the size of these. I think this is either an 1/8 or a 1/4 inch for spacing between the boards. You use that to make an outdoor picnic table. You're able to have some slats and a uniform space between them. They worked really well, and they're definitely worth saving. Other odds and ends like shelf pens and collapsible furniture pieces. And if we go down to the next drawer here, now we're at the holy grail here. So this is all my cordless power tools. So I've got the full set of Porter cable 18-volt tools. Everything from the very obscure 18-volt thermometer. I also have the clamp saw, which is a reciprocating saw that can actually bend 90 degrees. The sander, the multi-tool. I've got the full set. The only thing that I'm missing are some of the first generation drills, but that's fine. If you look at one of my other videos, you can see where I've also got this handle I can add on to a hammer drill. If I need an auxiliary handle, I'll keep that with it too. There's also a rotary tool. I think this was one of the tools that Porter Cable discontinued the earliest in their 18-volt lineup. I always have to fidget a little bit to keep everything there going back in. That's my sander for the detail sander. I'll be making a separate video coming up about the 18-volt Porter Cable tool system. And then on the bottom here, these are my remaining 18-volt Porter Cable tools and a few other odds and ends. So I've got my vacuum, my circular saw, I've got a grinder, I also have a plug-in corded planer and the bag. There's also an area light, extra shrouds for the grinder. You can't be too safe. What else is in here? Then there's a carry case for my multimeter. That's pretty much that at the bottom. And then, of course, the whole cart is on wheels, so I can wheel it around. And there's a little push handle on the side, but for me, this just stays in place as it is. That's something else that's not quite part of the tool cabinet, but is, I've got another coordinating cabinet here. Pardon me while I unlock this here. And so my other bit of tool storage here, this is my cabinet here. So at the top up here, I've got all my air tools in this bag. I keep it zipped up to keep the dust out of my air tools. So I've got brad nailer, finish nailers, staplers, pin nailers. I've got just about everything with the exception of with the exception of a roofing nailer. And then in here I've got my random orbit sander, I've got a belt sander, I've got a finishing sander, and I also have my biscuit joiner. I've also got a few other things here of some other finishing supplies. I still have the rest of my finishing chemicals inside, but I normally keep extra glue in there as well. But for the winter I keep that stored inside and I bring it out as I need it. I also have a few other things up here where I've got some sandpaper stored, some sanding blocks up there, an extra battery charger, and then the inside groove of my door up here I got my silicone spray brush on some magnetic magnets. This is a little scraping tool here. That's a brush that's useful for people to scrape up some clippings. I think this actually came with was designed originally for stripping paint, but that's just another useful little like mini shovel thing that is useful sometimes to dig your way out of trouble. And then on the other side of my cabinet here, I've got another magnet where I've got some yardsticks that I hold there. These aren't super precise yardsticks, but they're close enough for just needing to draw a quick straight line on a project. So I hope you found this useful and interesting. Check out my channel and check out the other videos I've got. Some of the things I've talked about today can be found on many of my other videos that I've made on my YouTube channel. Check them out, give me a like and a thumbs up. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.